obsessed with me.
Who I smoke, Lil Leaky. Who I smoke, Big Meaty. Who I smoke, Lil 2 3 Wonder.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
I was so moved. This is how audiences must have felt when they first saw Olivier play Hamlet. Oh, bravo, boys and girls. Bravo. Except for you. You were god-awful.
Full disclosure, news and commentary number 146, 146, 146, 146, 146. 150's coming up, 2 months. And then a month and a half after that, 156, which is 3 years. A full disclosure. Wild stuff. How you doing? In our commentary, we're gonna talk about a friend of mine, Alex Arias, has a saying: 2 things can be true, and we're gonna talk about how 2 things can be true, and the significance of that. Welcome to Full Disclosure. For once, I am showered and cleaned up. Instead of you having to talk to me when I have just got done with a workout. I did my workout. Yay. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. That's amazing. The kids, they might pop in and out of this thing before I take them back to their mother's house and I go to work, where I'm going to work 3:30 to midnight. Holy guacamole. I hope you're doing well. It was certainly a significant week in Georgia wrestling. Let's just jump into it. And again, you can go for a lot of this to gwhnewsandnotes.blogspot.com. APW, attendance of 82. Great to see. Notably, those numbers came up a little. I think that's always great news. Yeah. Pro South report. We ain't playing 2. The graphics for it were amazing. The show itself, COVID rearing its ugly head, right? Whittled the crew down to 11 wrestlers and 1 referee. But the crowd was into it, and that's good. The show sounded like it was okay. But Pro South, fresh off of their wins, they're coming. They're coming. Zicky Dice's show, though. You know, you had 2 prominent shows canceling, PCW and Southern Fried. But Zicky Dice's show went off, and it went well. And it's great to see. I'm so glad they didn't have to alter tons of that card. Same with Terminus. Terminus went well. Really, really great stuff. And so that just alone is reassuring to see. What else are we going to talk about? Georgia Wrestling History Awards. We got to talk about those. But I wanted to talk about things in terms of where it puts them in the pantheon of history, and do a little bit of just a knee-jerk analysis. I haven't thought about this at all beyond the idea, which is how do the current champion, now I'll have, there'll be recency bias, and then there'll also be whatever other bias goes on, but I want to look at the people that won each category and how they stack up with the others that have won the category. That's sure to, we'll see what kind of reaction that gets. I'm going to start from the bottom and then we'll get here with some of our newer ones. Best promo, Tyler Culprit and some gorgeous man named Stephen Platinum won. And last year, the first year of the award, Joe Black won. Pretty great company. I certainly am honored to share the company with Tyler Culprit and Joe Black. There's not really a history to talk about, though I think the award itself is off to a great start. And I think people are figuring out how to really market and get their promos and best matches out there. Speaking of best match, the Duck House Brawl one. Was it the best match that really happened? I'm not sure. I'll tell you this. It was the match that I saw most frequently online, promoted and pushed. And it made it certainly easy for people to watch and vote. Joe Black and William Huckabee defied the odds because that match took place at the beginning of 2020 and stayed in everybody's mind's eye long enough. That's how good that match was. Best Feud and Rivalry, which had its third year. Zach Mosley against Skrilla the Great, entirely comprised of two guys coming up with a concept. So I thought that that's really great. Matt Hankins and Bill Barron's a very different kind of feud. And then Joe Black versus William Huckabee, of course, in 2019. So great. All three of those feuds. Something I find really interesting, though, is that in the midst of all of it, Manders against Sexton never made the list, and now looks like they may never. And that is a testament to timing issues as much as anything. Not that I'm saying they mistimed it, but boy, it's whatever is prescient and pushed in the voter's mind matters. And keep in mind, the boys vote for this. So that is interesting as well. Best Mentor Award, 2019 was QT Marshall. 2020, Todd Sexton. 2021, Matt Hankins. What's interesting is Todd Sexton and Matt Hankins really were duking it out for the award this year, and QT Marshall was nowhere to be seen. Obviously, he has moved on to AEW and being a big honkin' deal there. The third mentor in that race is Ace Haven, and I would imagine that there's a very good chance that this group that were nominated this year stay intact for next year's Mentor Award. And there's something that's very reassuring and really cool about that. Best Referee Award, Daryl Hall and David Weekley have dominated since 2017. Though it was great to see some referees mentioned doing a great job at the Terminus show. And there was a new name in Danny Mead this year, and I imagine there's going to be many more. This is one of those awards that I think is going to grow in stature, because it's always been between like 2 or 3 people, it seemed like. And when you look at the list of referees that have won it before, Jeff McGowan, Dustin Robinson, Dee Byers, Ken Wallace, Tristan Michaels, as well as Daryl Hall and David Weekley. The referee who has won has always been a great referee, which I don't know if all the categories that have been around for a long time can boast about that, honestly. Best announcer, Greg Hunt. Now, best announcer, I like how Larry broke it down here. So from 2009 until 2019, it was always a commentator and announcer award. So that's why Greg Hunter won a couple times, and then John Johnson won it. So it's great that JJ has won it before. Dan Masters then was the first ring announcer to win it, right? And then Brett Wolverton back to commentator. And then Jonathan Feltner definitely dominated this bad boy. 6 wins in a row. What? And then last year, we broke it down into commentators and ring announcer, and Diana Michelle and Brandon Benefield and Gerard Bonner, respectively, have won those 2 awards the last 2 years. I think anybody's going to have a very difficult time unseating either one of them. That's my take. Best Live Event Award, Sacred Ground 3. So great that it started the category. I love bragging about that. Platinum Championship Wrestling, of course. Fright Night took it 2 years in a row afterwards. Then Hostile Environment tied with Scenic City Invitational. And then Scenic City won it outright in 2016, which was the last year that Ace was involved. So that's really cool. The Wildside Reunion Show was a feel-good event. Shindig 5 took it. Southern Honor, where they drew 1,000, Still Here, the second anniversary show, took it the year after that. And then this year, Pro South Wrestling. Is this going to be Pro South's basically invitation to the ball, and now are they going to be regulars on the award scene? That's, I think, a very interesting take. You could argue that Super Show got in because Hell freezes over, and Still Here 3 kind of split that collective vote. But Anniversary Super Show certainly was a great event. I have a feeling, too, we're going to be able to see more of the events that are going to be up for this category. I think people are figuring out that basically if people don't know about you, they ain't going to vote for you. And we're seeing less and less voting along party lines because, quite frankly, there's just a wider variety of people voting. Best Promotion Award, boy, huge, right? Anarchy, Rampage, PCW, Anarchy again. Anarchy tied with Southern Fried. Peach State for a couple years in a row when they were running really hot. Anarchy again, Southern Fried, and then Southern Honor absolutely dominating for 3 years in a row. The Southern Honor, I think anybody, and they themselves would be honest and say they didn't have the lock on the awards this year. This was the first year where I felt like an individual dominated more than any single wrestling group, and that was Matt Hankins dominating. So Southern Honor, a lot of things have slipped. Gary Lamb has implied that he's going to bring it, and so is Southern Honor, in an attempt to reclaim some of that cachet, but we'll see if that's going to happen. Certainly, the year that Southern Honor does not win Promotion of the Year will mean that somebody has really, really stepped up, or they have fallen off of the map. So that will be interesting to see. Best Booker Award, Rob Adonis won this bad boy for Rampage, and then Jimmy Rave took over, won a couple years in a row, stopped me from being able to win it, which pissed me off. But then I did win it, and then the team of Bill Behrens and Todd Sexton won. Andrew Alexander, who absolutely deserved it. I'm so glad to see his name on here. Rick Michaels won a couple of years for Peach State when they were running super hot. Peach State dominated these awards. They had their definite year or two where they did that. Todd Sexton and Dan Wilson tied, and then Todd Sexton won outright. And then Dylan took over this bad boy for a couple of years, but then this year was Matt Hankins, who's also the first guy who can really be credited with booking 2 different promotions, which is another interesting take, right? We'll see if that trend continues. Best Promoter, Scotty East, who I used to feud with all the time. He won it in 2009. Then Doc Gayton, a couple years with Rampage, because they were the hot act, man. Shane Knowles, though, came through for Peach State in 2012. And then Big Wood, so glad that he won. That was the year that really they were in a bunch of, they were running more towns than anybody, doing more shows than anybody for DSCW. Charles Anschutz won it for Southern Fried. And then Luke Gallows and Marty Miller won it for WrestleMerica. Anybody who wants to tell you that numbers don't matter, I point to nothing bigger than WrestleMerica at its inception, because they had those huge crowds, and that let them win for Best Promoter, right? Shane Knowles, Peach State Wrestling, got back in the game. Then Rick Michaels got it for Anarchy and NCW. Charles Anschutz and David Manders shared that award for Southern Fried, and then Gary Lamb has dominated it ever since, though we saw definitely cracks in the foundation this year, where Gary himself admitted that Ricardo probably should have won, but that Mucha Lucha has just done very few shows. Will Mucha Lucha do more shows? Will Gary Lamb really step it up like he said he's going to? Will other promoters kind of come into the mix? And let's see what's going on. This year, I felt like Southern Fried really got shut out. WrestleMerica wasn't even a mention this time, and Southern Fried really just came up, as very good but not great. My contention, and people may dispute this, is there are lots of people who wrestle for Southern Fried, but the core of wrestlers who feel truly passionate about Southern Fried is less than feel passionate about other groups, including Pro South, right? We'll see if that is true or not. Best Manager or Valet. This is the Jeff G. Bailey Award. And except in 2011, where where Rampage was so hot that Charlie Cash won it, Jeff G. Bailey won it 8 times. Within 2016, when Peach State was red hot, Bill Barron's tied Jeff. Right? Talk about domination on an award. And then Doc Brock won it in 2018 when Southern Fried had a really fantastic year. But then it's been the Matt Hankins Award ever since. And I have a hard time imagining somebody upending him. But I hope other managers take that as a challenge and work to do so. Most Improved Wrestler, JT Talent. Come on, man. That's great. Listen to this list of Most Improved Wrestlers. It is the who's who. JT Talent, Corey Hollis, Chip Day, Fred Yehi, Drew Atler tied. That was really an acknowledgement of Fred's rookie-ish year, just going like, we feel like he should win something. Bobby Moore, Jeter, Kevin Blue, Torque, Logan Creed, Alan Angels, David Ali, Tyler Culprit, Skrilla the Great. Dude, you win Most Improved, you are on your way. No, I think almost no award, because again, these are voted on by your peers, and the peers notice as much or more than anybody. And I think the wrestlers voting have done the best job, perhaps, with Most Improved Wrestler, honestly. Because that's not about party lines at all. That's the one award that I think is the purest. I think that's the one where people really take the blinders off and just go like, which one of these guys have I shared a locker room with has really stepped his game up? And so for that reason, I really have a soft spot for Most Improved Wrestler. I think it's the award that they all have cachet and they all mean a lot, but I think Most Improved Wrestler is the one where the wrestlers are absolutely the most honest when they say who won. Best Tag Team or Stable Award. What's interesting about this are the ones that have stayed together and the ones who have not. Talent and Money, the Usual Suspects. The Washington Bullets have won this 3 times, with Hot Like Lava taking it in 2012 and the Bullets winning otherwise. The Beautiful Bald Besties. Backbone. Remember Backbone? Christ, they were all over in everybody's promotion, and then now no more. The Lynch Mob, Team Tag, and then the Lynch Mob again. The Undeniable in 2020 and Exotic Youth in 2021. This is another one where I feel like it gets more hotly contested every year. Really does. Ted Allen Legends. Ted Allen obviously was the first recipient, and then Terry Lawler. And then we went through 2 years where nobody could get 50% of the vote until Bill Behrens did it. And then we had 3 years where nobody could get 50% of the vote until Rick Michaels did it. That's when people had kind of the most affection for Rick Michaels. I think the redemption was complete, and he'd redeemed himself, and he had done the Wildside Reunion show and all of that. Goodman won it in 2019, 2020, Jimmy Ox, 2021, Jimmy Rave. So now it feels like with that award, because I think having years when nobody won it actually didn't settle well with people. And now I think we're realizing, like, this is our chance to give flowers to people, right? And we shall see. I have a feeling that a guy who's been runner-up for this award many times is due. I'm just going to go ahead and call it. I think Iceberg's going to win it. And it's more than deserved. Best Female Performer. This alludes to the early days when PCW was the only one who booked women worth a shit. So it was Pandora, Miss Rachel, and then Dementia DeRose. What can I say? And then it was the Kiera Hogan story. Because it was Kiera Hogan and Priscilla Kelly in that feud. So Kiera Hogan won it the next 2 years. And then Danny Jordan ever since. 4 years in a row. Remarkable. I have a feeling, though, someone's going to break that hold by Danny Jordan this year, or at least give a very strong contention. Perhaps it maybe even Shalonce Royal, who came in second in the voting this year. Best Male Performer is another one of these categories that I think kind of usually goes against this idea of voting on party lines, that people really just vote for the person who they feel like has done the best job or entertained the boys just through sheer greatness. Shadow Jackson is the epitome of this. Crew Jones, Simon Sermon, AJ Steele, Sal Renaro for a couple years, Sugar Dunkerton, AC Mack, Matt Sells, Hold My Beer Hansen, and Bryce Cannon. What can I say? All guys that everybody loves to have on the card. Best Technician, this is the Kyle Matthews Award. It's named after him, and appropriately so, because he has won it 8 times. One time sharing it with Fred Yehi in 2014. Jimmy Rave has won it. Slim J has won it. Joe Black has won it. Now Chip has won it 2 years in a row. What can you say? There is not a flaw in that diamond of all the people that have won it. Dude, that's the best technical wrestlers going. Kyle Matthews, Fred Yehi, Jimmy Rave, Slim J, Joe Black, Chip Day. I can't say anything better than that. Overall wrestler, Phil Shatter, a.k.a. Jackson Riker, a.k.a. Gunner, right? Bull Buchanan, Kyle Matthews for 2 years, Shane Marks, Sean Tempers, Jimmy Rave, Chip Day, Gunnar Miller, Logan Creed twice, Joe Black twice. Come on. Dude, somebody want to fuck with the awards? I think at this point that argument has been settled. What an impressive list. Many of those awards going back from 2009. I wasn't sure how far they went back. Now I know. So it's 13, 14 years of a tradition that shows no signs of abating. And that makes me really happy. Commentary. 2 things can be true. So first I'm going to talk about what inspired this idea. So this weekend, inclement weather was on the way. And it hit Georgia. And there was snow and there was ice. And we've all seen the disasters before, right? Friends of mine who picked up their kids from school during one ice storm and ended up being stuck in their car for almost a full day. And the inability of Georgia to deal with it, and the kind of cruelty of people from the outside going like, oh, what happens when one snowflake hits the ground and wah. Like, dude, the South generally doesn't get snow. So, of course, they don't deal with it very well because it's not cost effective, you know. But they suffer the price, and it's just one of those things that happens. But when there's this idea that snow is going to roll in, cold is going to roll in, and stores aren't open and stores are closed. I mean, Larry's calling me from a mall that he's walking through yesterday, and he's going like, oh my God, nothing in this mall is open. Uh-oh. And he was worried for Terminus that they're going to have it shut down. And fortunately, people made their flights, and for the most part, that show was put on intact. Though they sold every ticket out, not every seat was filled because some people didn't feel comfortable coming or they couldn't come or whatever the case may be. But you had 2 prominent groups in PCW and Southern Fried who decided not to be open. And then you had 2 that really probably felt compelled to stay open in the Zicky Dice show and Terminus, who ended up being wildly successful, both of those shows. But something that I'm very happy to say is that nobody has nitpicked any of those decisions. Nobody has had anything negative to say about either one of those groups of shows. 2 things can be true. And I think it's safe to say, as crazy as this sounds, that all 4 of those groups made the right decision and the best decision possible. And the ones that showed a great deal of concern and having to serve a bunch of different masters. People don't understand how difficult that is. And I think if we can apply that mentality that, hey, maybe 2 things can be true about a bunch of things in life, but specifically about pro wrestling, I think we might have a much happier and much more joyous 2022. Are you a WWE or an AEW guy? They're both great, just completely different kind of aims of the show. 2 things can be true. That can be true. AEW, can they subsequently be inadequate when it comes to how black wrestlers or black management has happened in AEW? Yet, couldn't AEW still be the company that is clearly very conscious of that kind of thing, and perhaps they will strive to do? Those two things can be true. And can it be done out of the goodness and because it's the right thing to do and not just because of pressure? That could possibly be true as well. I think a bunch of things can be true. Is it conceivable that the WWE could get it together while still doing fucked up shit? Yes. I think those two things can be true. I think a number of things which we think of as opposing forces can actually coexist, or one can slowly fade out as the other one rises. That everything doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. Everything doesn't have to be either or. And in fact, I would argue that things are almost never either or. And the more we can break ourselves of that mentality, especially in the wrestling business, the better off we will be. We're seeing evidence of that happening already. I think this idea of if you wrestle for me, you better not wrestle for anybody else, I think that day is dead. And I am thrilled for it. Because if you look at the situations in pro wrestling in general, not in Georgia. In Georgia, I think people have fucking shed that mentality. And the boys fucking work where they want to fucking work. And I think that that's great. And I think the leagues have gotten out of this sort of petty. There's still petty infighting bullshit. But for the most part, a bunch of groups have died off and fucking good. Go away. And you know, even the groups that have stopped, when other projects come up, I don't think there's hard feelings, and I think people are inclined. I think people are excited that Murder is calling for wrestlers to sign up to his thing for his new project, and I think that's great. I think two things can be true. Yeah, it's fucked up that AWE is gone, but we can also be excited that Murder's thing is starting. Two things can be true. Yeah, and for the most part, I think this idea of having to like go to war with somebody, it feels asinine, because the truth is the WWE's main competition is television in general. The truth is AWE's competition is the ability to improve themselves. My kid just heard the ice cream truck and ran out there. She's gonna use her own money. My, they grow up so fast, and more importantly, aren't using my money. Very excited. Can you hear the ice cream truck? Keep this in mind. And because the kind of conversations we're having around the Zicky Dice show, Terminus, PCW, and Southern Fried, some choosing to cancel, some choosing to go on with the show, and we can have the most honest narrative that is also the most loving narrative, which is everybody made good decisions. And for that, we should just be thankful in general. And if people can unpucker their assholes and let the stick slide out a little bit, I think we will find, if we can talk about wrestling in a different way, especially now that award seasons are over. I get that awards can be very polarizing, and I could see the emotions and people getting really mad about stuff. And even people who should have been happy seem to be upset about something. Not everybody, but a few people where I was like, weren't you happy that you actually won an award or two? But they're like, well, we should have won more. Like, I get that, because awards tend to be you win or you don't. And if you don't win, you don't feel good about it. But two things can be true. Making it to the dance, getting some acknowledgement, getting a nomination alone, or having people say, like, oh man, maybe you should have been there, or people using it as fuel. So what I'm saying is, not only should you slip into this mentality of more than one thing can be true, you should figure out how to use that mentality to benefit you the most, instead of a trap of tribalism and tribal mentality that gets people into wasting time, energy, and other resources on conflicts that simply exist only in your own mind. This has been Full Disclosure.